streamers and dreamers? Welcome back to the Show. I'm Aaron, and as always, I'm joined by the man who still thinks buffering is something you do at an all-you-can-eat restaurant. My cousin and co-host Landon.
Actually, buffering is buffering. This is right here.
Careful, I didn't get my ticket to the gun show.
The gun show. How's it going?
Um,
Hit that record button this time?
yeah, yeah. Folks out there, if you thought that this episode was going to be a quiz show, all about DC Comics, and you thought Landon was going to ask me a bunch of questions, you would have been right if I had hit record. We went through almost 45 minutes of back and forth, questions and debating and just going through comic book lore, and
Man,
had a
it's
great
hard.
time doing it.
It was so great.
It was a good episode.
You know, it was almost like we were back at that dinner table, just bantering without purpose. So that will just be
Purpose,
forever
because
in
we didn't
legend
record
and
it.
lore. That'll be forever in legend and lore. Take our word for it.
Guys, just take my word for it. I did really great on the trivia. So
He did.
I do want to mention something as we record this. We are recording. I promise we're recording it this time. It is, as we record this, it is September 10th. And Landon doesn't know I was going to bring this up, but yesterday we lost a legend. James Earl Jones passed away
Yeah.
at the age of 93.
Yeah. What a
What a
life.
life. And before we get into everything for today's topic, just real quick, Landon, what he had such an incredible career. Do you have a favorite role that he played?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, there are a lot of great roles. I remember when I saw him in Conan. That was the first time I'd ever seen him, right? Conan the Destroyer, wasn't it? Wasn't he in that one? Which one was he the bad
Is that
guy?
the second one?
That was the second one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, I remember him in the Sandlot and
Mm,
and Field of Dreams, right?
yeah.
I think I would say my favorite character of his was from Field of Dreams. Although his voice and obviously Mufasa and Darth Vader and all that stuff, I just remember feeling I don't know, I just loved him. I thought he was a great actor. And I know he's done so many other things and so many things people would say, but that's the one that's probably most endearing to me.
Yeah, I
What about
agree.
you?
That is absolutely my favorite of all time. That he's played Terrence Mann in Field of Dreams. Just every time I hear that his monologue there at the end of the
Yeah.
movie, talking about the magic and the history of baseball and how
Oh, yeah.
uh people will come, Ray. It's just it's so iconic, and it is so I mean, the speech itself almost feels magical.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
So good.
like I get chills every time I hear it. And of course, then Ray goes and plays catch with his dad, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
a
They
blubbering
just start
mess.
crying. I know. I know.
But
Such
yeah,
a
I
great.
love his character in that, and his interactions with Kevin Costner, and the way he is, just as a character. Terrence Mann is it's so funny. One of my favorite parts of that movie, and we'll move on. They're driving down the road, and Terrence asks, Kevin Costner, he's like, uh, you know, what is it that what happened between you and your dad? Why did you stop talking to him? He's like, I don't know, I was 14 years old, and I just, didn't want anything to do with what he had to say anymore. And he said, what changed you at 14? That's when I read The Boat Rocker by Terrence Mann. And he's like, you see, that's the kind of stuff that people keep putting on me. It's, you wouldn't play catch with your father.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so good. To James Earl Jones, raise a
Yeah.
glass.
He will be missed. Definitely an icon and just a legend that will uh live on for generations. You know, he's going to inspire lots of other folks that are coming behind him. So,
Yeah,
uh
for sure.
rest in peace. All right. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. That way you'll never miss out when we drop our latest content. And trust me, it's easier than trying to remember all your streaming passwords. Speaking of streaming, that's what we're talking about today. Um, the evolution of streaming services from the days of waiting hours for a single song to download on Napster to now having entire
That's
seasons
true.
of TV shows at your fingertips. Landon, do you remember life before Netflix, or were you just basically a cable kid?
Well, the idea of not so I think going back, it started like, of course, you had cable, but then the ability to record on the VHS became a thing, right? And
Right.
so you no longer had to be live, watching it. You could record it and then go back and watch the tape later on. And they came out with devices along the way that would do it. But this on-demand aspect of watching anything, and there's pay-per-view and all that, but really, I think about what Netflix did to get those DVDs out there with the mailing. And
Mm,
so, what happened to the culture, aside from just music and be able to download that, was everything was getting positioned in a way where it's like, but I want to watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it, right? And so you had that happening. Of course, you're renting videos from Blockbuster or Planet Hollywood, things like that. Redbox hadn't come out yet, but just this culture thought process that was happening. You had the iPod, come out. People are just like, I want what I want when I want. It's just crazy how much the dynamic and thought process was changing from if I want to be a part of it, I need to attend it specifically to now, no, I want what I want when I
I
want
can
it.
I can sit in my home, and at the touch of a button, I can have whatever I wanted to watch or hear or see delivered directly to my television.
Right. So I think that all kind of sparked it in such a way where it's just taken off, and you look at cable and it's like, why would I why would I watch why would I do that? Why
Right.
would what I have to be there at a certain time? That's not convenient for me. Why would I do that? Are you crazy?
Why? Who says that I have to be a part of your schedule? Huh?
7 p.m.? How dare you?
It,
How dare you?
you know what? I don't feel like staying up till 11:30 to watch the Tonight Show, okay? I will
Yeah.
watch the Tonight Show sometime tomorrow morning while I'm working from home.
So you see things change, and now where we're at is even beyond just the ability to stream services. We're in this shorts idea where people can just watch, TikTok or YouTube shorts or things like that, where it's just instead of give me a full package, I want to only see the moments that are going to make me have an emotional reaction flash. And I'm going to flip
Right.
through and flip through and flip through and flip through until I find one. And it's like it's such a vast difference from the idea of let me go and make sure, oh man, the new episode's cracking at this time. I've got to be ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of a an interesting shift, but it sure did set the stage for us to get where it would explode as it
Yeah.
has.
Yeah. It really is crazy to think about how far technology has come. I don't know if you'll remember this, but back in the early 90s, AT&T had this ad campaign that took a look at the way we would be able to do things in the future. I remember there was this one commercial. I don't remember if this was an AT&T commercial or if it was for some other like fiber optic kind of deal. But it was this commercial where this guy, he was checking into a hotel and he was asking about like the pay-per-view movie options, right? And the girl at the desk, who very emotionless, obviously hates her job, but she basically tells him that he would have access to every movie ever made at the touch of a button. And it's like you can't do it now, but someday you will. And it's
Yeah.
like, this is like 1992, and
Right.
they're predicting this way back then, and like we're practically there. Now
Right.
you can't, like, if I wanted to go and say I decided I want to watch Cocoon, that old Ron Howard movie with Wilford Brimley. I want to watch that. I can't. It's not available on streaming anywhere. Why? Because the rights to the music that was played in the movie, they don't have the rights to stream it. So you can't
But you
find it
can't
anywhere.
can you download, like, and own it digitally?
Uh I don't think it's available to well, somewhere you might be able to.
Well, and some things you have like that. Like, I know for the longest time, and I don't know if it's still true, but Garth Brooks and his music, he would not
Yeah, no,
allow.
he still won't.
Yeah. So
He
you have that, or you have even looking at The Stand, the miniseries. The miniseries The Stand for the long, I don't know why, but couldn't get access to that. Or The Shining that was on, like, there's a few things that are just the rights keep it locked up. And I have to admit for myself, as I've encountered things that are not available, I like have this revol it's wrong. I mean, it's wrong. I know it's wrong. First world problems. But I have this revulsion inside of me. It's like, what are you? Well, then how do I
how
eBay?
dare you?
eBay? I have to get a copy of a
A,
VHS on
a physical copy, and
eBay?
they're gonna overcharge you for it.
I know. How dare you? It's funny. Um, But wow, what a change. All right, so talking to evolution of this, first thing I think for most all of us when we think about the movie side or anything like that was the transition to Netflix. But I can't for the life of me remember because I was so into the DVDs and I got those things mailed to me and I would crack those. I mean, I would just I had a routine, to go through those
Yeah,
DVDs.
yeah.
But I
I
don't
remember. So
remember
back
when
in the
the
day,
digital happened.
So I was a Netflix subscriber from way back, and I was one of the ones, like, back when they first started. I was one of those who was getting 3 discs at a time, right? And
Yeah,
so, like, I'm just pulling them in, watching like this. I'm binge watching TV
me
series.
too. Yeah, yeah.
That's how I never watched Veronica Mars when it was first on TV, but when those DVDs hit, man, I was like, let's get it done. Um,
Yeah, Smallville, ER, Alias. My wife and I, we watched all of these through those DVDs.
yeah,
Every
yeah.
all of them as they came
It was
through.
such a great, like, it's such a simple idea,
Oh my gosh.
and it just exploded. And it was so sad last year when they shut it down.
Yeah,
I was like, because I was still a subscriber. I was still getting like 1 disc at a time,
right.
because there's some things you can't find on streaming
That's
that you
exactly right.
have to get a physical disc of.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's so crazy. What
yeah.
really gets me is that now, like, so wait, let me backtrack, because you asked me, did you ask, like, do I remember like
When it
when
switched
digital
to
started?
yeah, digital started, right?
I
Because
remember this was, oh, was it what, 2005, 2006, somewhere around there. I know it was right before I moved to North Carolina, and it was like this big experimental thing, right?
yeah,
Because high speed internet was just really taking off, right?
right, right,
And so, like, we had transitioned from dial up internet. We're not using AOL anymore.
right.
We are constantly jacked into the internet. We didn't have Wi-Fi at the
No,
house. You
you
had to
buffer.
plug in with the
Yeah,
Ethernet cable,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but you're getting that high speed internet, which, I'm sure if we went back, that's
yeah,
20 years ago, and
yeah.
tried to use the internet then and call it high speed internet, we'd be like, this is a joke.
I know.
This
It's
is practically dial up.
like 5 Mbps.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're talking about streaming a movie like that at that point in time, it wasn't that appealing, and Netflix, they were the ones who started it. Like, they pioneered, hey, you are getting these discs. Why don't you try watching, one of these movies that we have access to on our website?
Right.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. And they didn't have a huge
It
selection.
it wasn't, no, but it
It
was
was
like,
it
"Oh,
was a
cool."
handful of movies, some that were, really obscure that you never heard of, some that were actually, good blockbuster type movies. Um, but it was hard to, because you didn't get the full screen 4K,
No.
1080p HD television kind of stuff. You got this buffering. uh you had to wait until like you had so much of it downloaded before you could hit play,
And then you'd
so
hit a
that you
spot
and then
in the
you get
movie.
caught up to it, and then be like, all right, now we got to buffer
Yeah,
again for
bummer
another
again.
5 minutes, and then
Right.
see how far you can get.
And at that time, you're just kinda like, "I think I'll just do the DVD." You know what I mean? You're just
Right,
like,
yeah, yeah,
it wasn't until that started speeding up, but of course, it was a dual thing. It's not only their infrastructure for what they had, but it's also your own internet speed, going
yeah.
along now with that. These things are just, like, continuing to go.
But what
Um,
was amazing though was that the when they made it convenient to not just watch movies online, but they made it a part of your entertainment systems.
yeah,
Like, you can have a Netflix app on your PlayStation. You can have a
yeah,
Netflix app on your Xbox. You
right,
can have a Netflix app on your television
right.
or as part of TiVo. And then they were like, you
Evo
know what? Let's get these TV companies to add a Netflix button to the remote
to their
control.
actual remote, and that came later. I mean, but it's like, that was pretty fancy for those things to happen. Then you have all the affiliations. Do you remember when, I mean, so Amazon, then, they've had their Prime, that's, taking off on its own, and then for them to add their digital, I remember when Amazon Prime Video came out, and I was like, "This is garbage," because, like, my standard was Netflix, and they had such a
There
great
was Netflix.
interface and still have a great interface, but the UI for Prime, you, like, had to go and find a season which had its own little icon, and
Yeah.
then you'd be intermixed with all the things that you would buy, so you couldn't search anything right, and it's gotten much better now, but it's back then, it was like, "How dare you make this why don't you do what Netflix did, morons?" You know?
Well, and
Uh,
they still have their like the television seasons separate from each other.
which is
Like,
just crazy.
it really is. Like, just have the TV series, go in there and choose an episode. Doesn't matter what season
I
it's
think
from.
some things they've gotten better. One of the things that's amazed me is the actual content that these companies have been making on their own. So when we look at some of them advancing, of course, when you had HBO Max, well, first Disney, when it was announced that Disney was going to have their own app, and the idea was not necessarily about new stuff or anything like that. It was like the opportunity to see classics and old
Right.
Disney stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that's all I thought it was, right,
Well, yeah.
initially.
Yeah. When they announced Disney Plus, it was like, so wait, wait, wait. Are you telling me they're going to open the vault
You're gonna open the vault?
and we're
And
going to get all of that stuff, like, all that crap just going to spill out of there, and we're going to be able to watch it whenever we want to? Is that what you're saying?
you're
That's
saying
exactly
that
what
I
we're
could
saying.
watch Darkwing Duck? I
Yeah.
could watch Darkwing Duck again? Yeah.
Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, DuckTales.
And,
Come on.
it's funny, the nostalgia lasted for, I don't know, all but 5 seconds before you're like, "Alright, cool. I got the access to them. What can I see that's new?" You know what
Mm.
I mean?
I watched the DuckTales. I watched the first 5 episodes that was like that constituted that like
Right.
the opening movie or whatever that
Right, right, right.
introduced DuckTales to everything. I was like,
Right.
all right, I'm good. I don't
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to
you're
watch
like,
all 200 episodes. Let's
"Legend of the
go.
Lost Lamp, that's great. Alright." No, it was great, but I remember that's the first time that I was, like, personally, like, invested. Like, obviously, Netflix, it's all been about sort of, but that was, like, one that was like, "Oh my gosh, my library." The other part too is you had, of course, Apple was doing its own library at the time. There wasn't the Apple TV that they were trying to build up for you to have your own digital library, and Movies Anywhere was doing its thing, and
Mhm.
you had this new digital piece when you bought a DVD where you could then get a code to have the digital version. And
Yeah.
so now you're starting to amass a library of your own digital titles, and you're like, why am I buying physical copies anymore? right?
because they could disappear from digital at some point, and you'll never know.
And that
Like
was that
Cocoon, like Cocoon. You know, maybe I
that
want
was
to
the
watch
case.
Cocoon, but I can't because I don't have a physical copy of it.
Right. I remember when HBO announced and we're doing theirs, and I, so many possibilities for all the different movies, the authority of movies, really, to come out and do their thing.
I mean, just knowing that HBO is an affiliate of Time Warner, and so you're gonna get everything Warner Brothers
Oh my
has
god.
ever put out on HBO Max. It's like, well, then let's do this.
Or when you and I learned about the DC aspect coming, being
Oh
a part
yeah, yeah.
affiliated, it was like, and then all of that
Because
being there.
even that was that DC was a streaming service for a second.
Right,
A
right.
hot minute. They
It was
you
so
had DC
short.
Universe that
Mm,
brought, and they were producing their own shows. You had
mm.
Titans, you had
Right,
they brought back Young Justice,
right,
they brought in Swamp Thing, uh Doom Patrol,
right,
and then HBO Max gets announced, and it's like, well, what's the point of having two Warner owned streaming services? Is
right.
Are they going to fold DC into it? And sure enough, they did.
Sure enough, they did, and it's good they did.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
but it's amazing to me because, the amount of money that's been generated that's afforded the opportunity to create their own content has really changed the entertainment industry entirely. That being said, the decision making of when to halt a show and change, like just to cut something out and like have it not ended or leave it open ended, I think it's never been more volatile than it is now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because they can these executives behind the scenes, they'll make these decisions at the drop of a hat,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter like what audiences think about a show.
Hmm.
It may not be the most watched show, but it could be beloved by you know a
Yeah.
certain demographic of people, and suddenly you find out, oh, we're not getting season 3 of this.
Yeah.
Well, what?
Yeah. And
It
also
left
the
with a cliffhanger.
episodes changed, as well as far as how long they were and how many there were. And so you have these, it's just like we're talking about the Lord of the Rings, the season 2, I think I had mentioned to you before that I watched the first episode of. That's an hour. It was like 70 something minutes, for that. And so, when you're dealing with streaming, you're not trying to fit in time blocks on a cable network. You're not having to
Right.
follow those rules. It's more just the availability of anything right in front of you.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about commercials. You don't have to
Right.
deal with commercial breaks. Let me ask you this: so streaming services have given us the opportunity to have TV series and seasons that are shorter, and they're succinct, they're to the point. You have the new standard for TV shows is 8, 10, maybe 12 episodes, and you have no fillers, right? Everything is, you're telling the story that and it's a long form version of a story, which I always feel like makes sense if you're like translating a book, because then you can fill in the blanks with episodes. But it's nothing like it was, or still is with network TV,
Right.
where they're expected between the beginning of the fall season to the end of the season in May. uh you fill that in with 22 episodes
Right.
in a season, and it's like you can binge watch something on Netflix that's only 8 episodes long and get a complete story out of it. Whereas if you wait until such and such episodes, 22 episodes of whatever show on CBS ends in May, and you
Yeah.
decide, oh, I'll just jump on Paramount Plus and stream it there, you got 22 hours of television to get through before you finish your season. Now,
Right. Oh,
do I
and
want to invest that much time in that?
right, and maybe not even. I mean, if you think about like the commercials, so you're talking 42 minutes, or whatever the case is for each one of these 22. I think what's happened is that you look at live TV now and it's really comprised of like the live shows. What are the reality TV? Like you have reality TV, you have game shows, and then
Mhm.
you have like these one-off shows like a Law and Order or something like that. That it's just like each episode is just independent on in its own. Right. Right. So it's like instead of it being like full continuity, maybe you'll have a little bit here. It's more sprinkled with it's like this little episodes about this. You have some so like a soap opera, you know what I mean? And so I think that it's changing now so that shows that are more you'd be more invested in. I don't know that they can survive in that kind of I don't think the attention span of the masses will tolerate, something like that.
Do you
So,
think though? Yes, do you think we're missing anything by not getting those filler episodes anymore?
well, I think we're missing something that's more psychological, it's a missing element psychologically.
Yeah.
Um, the more we go toward, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having, a serial, right, or something that you can be able to invest in. The use of the imagination and being able to invest yourself in a storyline and not just play me a flute, play me a song, dance for me mentality. I think that we have to be careful as to understanding what a true good story is, right? You think about like Alfred Hitchcock, you know you there's a whole lot left to the imagination for you to figure out. You think about reading, a book. There's a lot of time to invest in character development through the course of a book. So are we
Mhm.
missing stuff? Yes. All of the filler episodes and the expansiveness of time in a show or series is about your investment to the characters as well as the setting, which can be a character in itself. So yeah, I think we lose stuff by far. I just don't think people have the time or patience for it anymore.
Yeah. So we've talked about like the different streaming services that there are, just the sheer number of streaming services that are out there. Do you feel like, or well, are you like me? Like I feel like I have to be subscribed to all of them, right? Because
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh, you haven't seen that show? It's only available on Ultra Mega Stream Plus. And it's
right,
like, I don't want to feel this streaming FOMO. But it's gotten to the point where it's like it's as bad as having cable, right?
yeah,
Instead of paying, the crazy like $75 a month for cable and 100 channels I don't watch,
right,
I'm paying, you know, $20 here, $15 here, maybe $10 here for all of these different streaming services that add up to 75, 85,
right, right,
$100 a month. And I'm still not watching, 90% of what's there.
right. I mean, I go through waves, right, where I'll sit here and I'll be like, you know what, I'm out. I cut one off. Like I cut off Peacock and Paramount, and I know that when Strange New Worlds comes out, I've got to turn it back on. But there's
Yeah.
a part of me that's just like I'm waiting for the answer. Like there's got to be at some point a consolidation. Now there are ways you have certain like Apple will have the way that you can through them get access to the app. Hulu is trying to do its own thing. I'm sure YouTube is as well trying to bring in those. But honestly, there's not necessarily a great interactive place. Maybe Apple TV, like the box, has those things there. But even so, you want to be able to go to a place where you can just see all your options
Yeah.
and choose what kind of access you're going to have like in the package, which we don't really have yet, right?
Right.
So it is too
You
much.
know that they have, Disney owns Hulu and ESPN, and
Right.
so they've had that package that they've put together.
Yeah.
But now they've added a package where it's Disney, Hulu, and HBO or Max
Oh really?
together. And so like at this point I'm like, I paid for an annual subscription to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And so once that year is up, I'm gonna switch it all out
It's
and
over.
get that uh package deal, because why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, why not? Well, and the funny thing is too, like we have HBO Max through our cell phone plan, but
Mhm.
it's no longer offered on the cell phone plan. So we're almost like held hostage because as soon as we drop, like if we change our cell phone cover, we'll lose it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you just kind of weigh in the money, on that. Um, but I have to say this on behalf of my daughter who was on our Barbie episode last time. She will constantly bring up how ridiculous it is to pull on Disney Plus and to see, like scary things because of Hulu. Like
Yeah.
it'll pop
Hulu's
it.
on there now, yeah.
Like she's like, why is that on there? That is so inappropriate. Disney is for children, you know? And, and it's funny because she's right. I mean, I look on there and I have like, showing Disney, Mary Poppins, and then you see like the Omen. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah, yeah.
just, and it's like, wow, that's probably not the best,
Yeah.
So a few things that are like, I mean, can be their little screenshots are visually frightening,
Yeah,
so
oh yeah, some of them are, and yet like feel really inappropriate to have on Disney Plus. But I guess that's where if you have the parental settings, right?
yeah,
And so like if there's something on there,
that's
because
true.
I remember when they first before Hulu started showing up on there,
Mhm.
and Disney decided to pull the trigger and go ahead and put Deadpool and Logan, R-rated movies on Disney Plus. They made sure that their customers were able to go in and uh make it safe for their kids to still get on Disney Plus and not have access to the R-rated stuff.
Yeah,
Um, so I
yeah.
would I would hope that they continue to do that. All right, so let's wrap things up real quick. Because we have gone on and on and on, and we've had two episodes, but we only got one. Pop culture pulse. Landon, have you heard the rumors that there might be a fourth season of Ted Lasso?
They ought to. They need to make the ending better. God, I hated the ending. I'm
I
sorry.
don't know. I thought it was all right.
For all the people that liked it are just like, you know what? That's the way it should end. Look, let me just put it this way. I'm a romantic at heart. All right. I gotta have I gotta have the good resolution. I can't have milk toast Ted Lasso, who's been a positive force, kind of just be like, well, thank you. You know what I mean? I can't have that, you know? And I'm so glad they figured out the Keeley thing and she gets with, sorry, spoiler alerts, but it's just like, come on. Can't we just have something? She needs to be with
Roy.
yes,
Yeah,
not Jamie.
I agree.
Come
But
on.
I
Give
think
me
it might.
that 4th season.
I think they were just saying it was more important for Roy and Jamie to have that bromance.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Woohoo, you know?
Eli. All right, we're gonna go back to get some audience interaction. We had some audience feedback on our Barbie episode.
Hey.
Uh, remember our friend Vert Bean Casserole over on YouTube?
Yeah.
She had a comment for us.
All right.
Remember we were talking about He-Man being height his height was not quite up to Barbie standards. Um, Now this is her speaking, not me, but she says He-Man was queer, so he and Barbie would have been a vibe despite the height difference. That's an interesting take, I think, on our discussion. It's funny how these classic characters keep evolving in our cultural consciousness, but I want to break this down just a little bit. First off, if we're talking about the original 80s He-Man cartoon, they never really made anyone's sexuality clear, okay?
True.
Maybe King Randor, I mean, his name is Randy, right? And Queen Marlena, even then, we're just assuming, right? They're married, they had kids together. We can assume what how their bread's buttered. For all we know, though, everyone else in Eternia could have just been asexual, right? I mean,
That's
they're all too busy fighting Skeletor to
I
wonder
assure
and worry
you
about dating.
I assure you I had the action figures. They were absolutely asexual.
Now, okay, so if we look at the recent Netflix continuation by Kevin Smith, have you seen these? The Masters of the
I
Universe
think I watched
Revelation.
the first one. I think I watched the first one.
They're pretty good. All right, things get a little bit clearer if you watch those. It shows us that Duncan, the man at arms, he had a thing with the sorceress of Grayskull, which gave us Tila.
Yeah.
And speaking of Tila, it becomes pretty obvious that she and Prince Adam, aka He-Man, are totally into each other.
I
But
totally
here's
thought that growing up, by the way. So
oh
that
yeah,
was my mentality is He-Man and Tila.
headcanon, right?
Yes.
But it gets tricky though. I mean, some people don't consider this canon. Like it's an update to the '80s cartoon, sure, but it's a lot of debate in the fan community. So, what do you think? Do you think we should consider the Netflix series official continuation, and these are the relationships, or what?
I do. I mean, I at
I'm
this
okay with
point,
it.
I would go with Kevin Smith's being canon going forward, as much as I would, thinking of Filoni doing Star Wars. I just look at it and say, I mean, and the reason why is because I feel like, at least from what I saw in that first episode, it's sticking to the main archetypes, right? It's when you have things that deviate and you have some, Snow White that's, you know, not behaving like Snow White, you know what I mean, or something like that, where you go, okay, come on, don't mess with the core, you know. So yeah, so long as it follows the rules.
To our friend Vert Bean Casserole, thank you once again for leaving a comment there on YouTube. We appreciate you keeping us on our toes and bringing some fresh perspectives to our discussion. That is what makes this community so great. So keep it up. Keep on coming back with questions and answers and thoughts and opinions. We love hearing it. And that's not just for her. Everybody out there who's watching or listening, please let us know what you think about today's topic or any other topic. We have streamed right through this episode. It's time to decide what we're going to talk about next week on our wheel of topics. So let's get on this. I did remove the question mark because we did have our trivia show,
By herself.
and so what did I replace it with?
By
Cancel
herself.
culture? No, that was already on there. I don't know. Well, let's just go with it. What we got? What we got? What we got?
Oh, Beetlejuice 2, how appropriate.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
I'm
Okay,
gonna see
so
it.
that'll be one episode, and then
That is
Wheel of
so
Morality.
funny.
Turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn. Is that the
Is that
purple
on the
one?
line or is that the a
AT&T. Okay, so this actually came from our discussion today. Made me think of this. The AT&T ad campaign from back in the '90s that said you will be able to do these things.
yeah.
I thought that would make for an interesting discussion, and so let's do that. We'll talk about Beetlejuice 2 or BJ squared and AT&T's 1993 ad campaign, the You Will campaign. Um, I'll even I'll send you some YouTube videos that have the old commercials on them, and it's amazing to see like how they predicted what we're doing today.
That's crazy. Okay. I'm looking forward to that. That's cool.
All right, guys. It'll be exciting to come back and talk about those things. I'm excited to see Beetlejuice. And Landon, any final thoughts on the future of streaming before we go?
Oh no, but I'm sure I'm gonna go back and just dive right into it like I do all the time.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna rewatch The Office for the 100th time. All right, guys, that's all the time we got for today's episode. Remember to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed the show. My name is Aaron. I'm with Landon, and we're reminding you to have a great whatever it is wherever you are.
see you later.